Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm kicking off a new sewing project that is very exciting. I'm going to be sewing a tailored blazer, and I'm actually testing a pattern that is not yet released, soon to be released, for the Modern Sewing Company. If you're not familiar with pattern testing, it's something that designers do before releasing a new pattern. They'll send it out to sewists in a variety of sizes to check the fit, but also to check the instructions, and it gives them a chance to make any improvements needed before releasing the pattern to the public. I'll be documenting how the blazer comes together, what I'm noticing as I go through the process, and how the pattern works for me. For this project, I will be using a lightweight 100% wool Japanese suiting fabric that I got from Fashion Fabrics Club. It has a navy and black twill weave, so it's a really dark, almost black blue, and it has structure but also a really nice drape to it. For the lining fabric, I ordered a Bemberg Cupro lining after doing a lot of research, and they actually ran out before they shipped my shipment to me. So I had to do a little bit of a dig through my fabric stash, and I found this very lightweight striped kind of navy and ecru cotton linen fabric, which I understand a lot of people say is not ideal, but it's almost got a silky touch to it, and as I said, it's very lightweight, so I think that's what I'm going to try and use for my lining fabric. I'm really excited to take on a more complex fitted tailored blazer like this. I've made blazers in the past and learned a lot from making them, but wasn't in love with the result. So I'm hoping that this is the blazer pattern for me. If you're interested in sewing a blazer yourself, or you just enjoy watching the process of something coming to life, I hope you'll stick around and let me know. Have you ever tested a sewing pattern before? Or is there a blazer pattern that you've already made that you love? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Before I even touch the fabric, I like to spend some time with the pattern, reading through the instructions and just getting a sense of the construction process. For this project, I'm using a PDF pattern, which means I will be printing it at home and taping it together before cutting out my pattern pieces. I actually don't mind this part. It gives me a chance to look at each of the pattern pieces and start to get an understanding of how everything is going to come together. Of course, you can have these PDF pattern files printed at a copy shop in large format, but I really enjoy that when I'm printing at home, I can get started whenever the inspiration strikes. And as I said, I don't mind the process of taping things together. It's kind of like a puzzle. One tip that I will give you if you're going to be printing at home is to go into the PDF file layers and only select the size that you will be sewing up. That way, when you're taping the pattern together and cutting it out, there's no confusion about which size is the one to cut. You won't have to trace anything. You can just cut out your size, and it also sometimes saves on paper. Once my pattern pieces are all cut out, I like to prep my fabric by giving it a pre-wash if I'm going to. In this instance, I will pre-wash the cotton linen blend lining fabric, but of course I'm not going to throw my 100% wool fabric into my washer and dryer. I'm just going to give it a nice iron and steam and make sure everything is laying flat before I place my pattern pieces on the fabric and cut them out. Blazers have a lot of pieces to cut out. The main fabric, the lining fabric, the interfacing. So I like to really take my time for this stage, and I also find it helpful to keep the fabric paired with the pattern piece or to label them. Also, if your fabric doesn't have a distinctive right and wrong side, I find it really helpful to take some tailor's chalk and just put a little mark on the wrong side in order to keep everything organized. This will make the whole sewing process much smoother later on. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by this stage, that's totally normal. Again, take your time, stay organized, and think of it as putting a lot of care and attention into a project that you're going to love and that's going to last for a really long time. It's definitely worthwhile to slow down at this point. Another tip for you, I often have my cutting out of pattern and fabric day as separate from sewing. So the first day that I work on the project is usually printing out the pattern, assembling it, cutting out the pattern pieces, and then cutting out the fabric. And once I've done all of that, I'll come back another day and begin the sewing process. I find that really helpful. put on a good show, put on some music, and also you're familiarizing yourself with the pattern pieces and the way that they will come together. Now that everything is cut out and organized, I'm going to move on to interfacing all of the pattern pieces that require it. This step really gives the blazer its structure, and it's a really important one. I've chosen to use a black interfacing for this project as my fabric is quite dark. I think matching your interfacing color to your main fabric color is another great tip. I'll be using a press cloth and taking my time here to make sure that everything is properly fused before I begin sewing. Now we're ready to begin constructing the blazer. I'm starting with sewing the front darts, which help shape the blazer around the bust and waist, and then we'll dive into doing the 3 welt pockets. Welt pockets can definitely feel intimidating if you haven't done them before. I think these instructions make it really clear. I took it one step at a time, double-checked that everything was lining up, and that made all the difference. I really think you can achieve a professional finish if you don't rush. I've definitely rushed welt pockets in the past and regretted it. So this time I slowed down, I marked everything carefully, and while not perfect, I think they turned out great. With the welt pockets finished, I move on to constructing the body of the blazer. I start by attaching the front pieces to the back at both the shoulders and the side seams, and then I move on to assembling the sleeves. Once the sleeves have been assembled, I attach them to the body of the jacket, being sure to line up all of the notches, and at this point it really feels like the jacket is starting to come together. Once the sleeves are attached to the jacket, I insert the shoulder pads. I use the free Closet Core printable shoulder pad piece and some cotton batting to make mine. It was really simple and straightforward. And then I added the collar to the outside of the jacket. Once all of that is done, it's time to move on to the lining, and constructing the lining is very similar to constructing the outer, with the addition of these facing pieces, both at the bottom and also along the center front and at the neckline. The back has the same pleats as the jacket, and then there's also a facing piece that goes on the neck of the lining too. And these facing pieces are what are going to be attached to the jacket. So here you can see I've got the jacket and the facing attached. I've pulled everything through so that it's right side out. And now I have the long and slow process of hand stitching the facing pieces to the jacket. You do this by hand so that the stitches are not visible on the outside of the jacket. And once all of the hand stitching is done and the opening between the lining and the jacket has been closed, all that is left to do is a final really good press and to add the buttons and the buttonholes. And here we have the final result with the buttons attached. I'm so pleased with how it turned out. I absolutely love the fit, and I think this is going to be such a versatile layering piece in my wardrobe. It's going to work great with jeans and sweaters, as well as dresses and more formal trousers. And yeah, I'm just really thrilled that I finally made a tailored blazer that I love, that fits great, and that works really well with all of the other items in my wardrobe. I learned so much making this blazer, and I think it's a great pattern. If you're interested in trying a blazer pattern, I will be sure to link the Modern Sewing Company website below. As I mentioned, this pattern was gifted to me and I was paid to test it, but my thoughts are my own. Thanks so much for following along. Let me know if you've made a blazer before, or if maybe this video inspired you to try making one. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing, and I will be back with the next one very soon. Bye.